This episode of the Beaute Industrie podcast was brought to you by Private Label Skincare, handcrafted natural skincare products for busy beauty entrepreneurs. Hello and welcome to the Beaute Industrie podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beaute Industrie, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beaute Industrie.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Beaute Industrie podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little different than usual. Firstly, you may be wondering whose voice is this and what have I done with Tamara? My name is Marnina, I'm the founder of Derm Health Co, and I've known Tamara, the founder of Beaute Industrie, since its first inception and was one of the lucky 10 attendees at the first ever Beaute brunch. Today marks 100 episodes of the Beaute Industrie podcast and the 2-year anniversary of Beaute Industrie. So, to commemorate this milestone, I'll be interviewing Tamara. But before we begin, here's a little more of an overview. The Beaute Industrie podcast started in May 2018, and in 2 years, it's reached over 60,000 ears. It reaches international countries and is recognised as the #1 podcast for the professional beauty industry in Australia. Tamara's been asked about her story many times, so here we are. I started by asking Tamara what she thought was the biggest misconception about starting a business.
I loved when I saw that you asked me this question, Marty, because I think, everybody has an idea for business. And as soon as you get this idea about the business you want to create, you think, yes, everyone's going to love this idea and I'm going to take it straight to market and it's going to blow up and my audience is going to need it as much as I think they do. But I think the biggest misconception about starting a business is that in itself. It's that not everyone is going to like your idea as much as you do, or not everybody is going to be invested as much as you are, time, money, passion, energy wise. But I think, it's in those people that I kind of learned, okay, why are they not as invested as I am? Or why do they not think this is going to work? And I kind of took those little bits and pieces and the naysayers, or, use it as feedback to kind of develop the idea and flesh it out a little bit more. I think, sometimes when we start a business, we only think of all the good stuff. And sometimes in that kind of misconception about people not understanding it 100%, it actually gets your brain ticking over a little bit more than perhaps you thought about during that kind of startup phase. I think that's the biggest misconception, but also too, just not to let that detract from what you want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And even if it is a great idea, just having the right messaging and marketing it properly and being able to articulate what your idea and product is just as important, right? That can sometimes be lost along the way.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So let's begin with the origin. Why did you start Beaute Industrie?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny starting story because I was actually at the time was working for a large day spa company, which everybody would know now is Indota Spa. And I moved from Melbourne, where their head office is, to Sydney. And at the time, I was actually the only person in the company to have moved interstate. And so what I just felt was just a slight disconnect, if I'm honest, from my friends in the industry who I had known in Melbourne, obviously the head office team who was in Melbourne. And that's not to say anybody was not doing a good job. It was just me more so moving to a new state, wanting to have a support network around me. And I didn't know that many people in Sydney. And I was working so much that I really didn't have time to make new friends, or let alone new industry friends friends in Sydney. So I started up a Facebook group called Boss Beauty, and this was back in 2017. And basically, I just added in all of the educators from Melbourne that I knew, and the business development managers, and a few other managers and therapists. And we just started to chat about the professional beauty industry. And every kind of week or every other day, I would just be putting in different stories, or I would be asking the 15 people who were in there, their thoughts and opinions. And I didn't realize, but I was working with, a lot of business owners and managers, and the more questions they asked me and I didn't have the answers to, I just put straight into that group. And I didn't realize that group had hit 100 people within about a year. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've never put any real energy or effort into this being a thing. I did just originally think it was a Facebook group, and it was a way that I could stay in touch with people. And two, at the time I was going home to my boyfriend at the time. I'm going home to my dad, my two closest people, who are both males in very male driven and oriented businesses. And I was asking for their advice on things like therapist uniforms and, how to talk to a therapist whose turtle had died and she can't come into work for the day. And, naturally they're just going, oh, just fire her and tell her to, be stronger and come into work. Of course she's going to come into work. And, they were just giving me the most impractical advice possible. And I wanted that network that I could have a chat with, that understood me on a level of an industry that no one else really understands unless you're in it. And, I tried to fill the gaps many times by going to different women's conferences and, female entrepreneur workshops and things like that. But I had never, ever seen a beauty therapist, a beauty manager, a day spa owner, or any of the like across any platforms. And I thought this could really give us kind of a voice, a voice to share our opinion and to show that we are experts. And so that's kind of where I started.
How fantastic. What a fantastic start in the way that the trials and tribulations for beauty therapists and beauty business owners are so different to someone that might be, in administration or in trades and things like that. I'd really love to hear a little bit more about the very beginnings. So you started it as Boss Beauty, and then you rebranded into Beaute Industrie. So what did this initial kind of first months look like when you had those 100 members and thought, this is kind of something here?
Yeah. So I guess when I first started in 2017, it was just me talking to 15 people and just constantly asking for their opinions. And it was almost a one-sided conversation. But in April of 2018, when we reached 100 people, in the kind of interim, I guess, I had been wanting to start all of these other businesses, and I was really trying hard to start them. And I wanted to create a product brand for sensitive and sensitized skins. I wanted to create a herbal tea. I wanted to actually have a recruitment agency for the industry. And I was trying to start all of these other businesses, and just kind of nothing was ever working. It was too expensive or too much time, or it was a real conflict of interest to the jobs that I was doing at that time. But in April of 2018, when we hit 100 people, I was like, oh my goodness. And I so distinctly remember it because I was sitting with Nathan on the couch and Facebook alerted me, and I love Facebook. And it said, you've got 100 people in your group. Would you like to say a post? And I looked at him and I said, this is it. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I said, this is my business. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I said, no, this product company, this tea, this recruitment agency. I said, stuff all of that. This is actually what we're going to do now. This is what I'm going to put my energy into. And so from there, I kind of thought of the name being Boss Beauty. And I don't know, I was turning about 28 at the time. I was kind of just feeling like the word boss didn't really resonate with me. I'd always kind of thought of myself as a leader more than a boss. And I just thought, how can I give this business now a real nod to the beauty industry? And for me, the beauty industry has always just been about that French woman who, you know, goes to the salon every month because it's a ritual, it's not a treatment. You know, they use divine body products because they love the skin that they're in. They're not trying to cover up anything. And so I thought, okay, I'll rename it Beaute Industrie, which is a nod in a French twist, which my Australian accent does absolutely no justice to. But I thought I'll rebrand it into Beaute Industrie. So I guess what the few months of that startup process looked like were not much sleep, lots of crazy 3 a.m.s, creating websites, creating podcasts, connecting with as many people as I possibly could, adding people into the group, just a lot of traction and brand building, I guess.
So when was it that you realised that Beaute Industrie could be, in quotes, a real business? Because yes, you had 100 members, but then to transition it into a business, when did that kind of happen?
Yeah, so I really never thought of it as a business at that time when I had 100 members, because I still had a job. You know, I had a full-time job. Beauty Industry Facebook community wasn't making me any money. The community on Facebook itself still today makes $0 out of it, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But you know, it's kind of crazy because the reality of business for me happened almost twice. So, firstly, in March of 2019, when I left my full time job and I became self employed, I was like, rightio, well, now this has to be a business. It really does. And it was making a little bit of money. You know, we were selling tickets to events, and we had beauty partners on podcast episodes and things like that. But it actually wasn't until I decided to rebrand with Digital Bloom in November, only late last year, to be honest, in 2019, that I was kind of like, oh my goodness, this is a thing. And I guess this speaks volumes of Sarah and the team at Digital Bloom. And this is not a paid or plugged sponsor at all. But when I first opened the designs that she sent through, so if I go a step back, in that kind of April 2018, when I was rebranding, I designed a little logo just on Canva, as many of us do, with no money, no startup, no capital, no nothing. And so when late last year, I decided, okay, let's rebrand. And I first saw the brand designs and the briefs that Sarah sent through, I almost had a tear in my eye. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm a robot. Like, I do not cry. I don't get very emotional at all. But I thought, oh my goodness, this has actually just been worth it. You know, this is now a business. And it just took my level of thinking to what people had told me previously of my little business, working in my home office. Now this could be global. And that was really special for me.
What an exciting time. And just a memory that I have, Tamara, is that I was at your first event in Melbourne,
Yeah.
at a beautiful salon and day spa. And it's just interesting how you mentioned that it was only November of last year that you really felt that Beaute Industrie had grown into a real business and it had real potential. But I must tell you that from that very first event, I knew there was something special about it. And that's why I went, because I think you were able to articulate what the message was, and you had this sense of community, and you were creating something out of nothing. So it's a real credit to you, even though in your own mind you thought it was, you know, perhaps a year or even 2 years later after that initial event. From the very beginning, I think there were lots of people, me included, that knew that Beauty Industrie was going to be something quite special.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. It only takes, you know, a little mini support network of people around you to believe in you, I guess. You know, that made me kind of go, okay, I can do this. Even though on the way there, I was having a panic attack, thinking, why have I run an event and I've got 14 people coming to this day spa, and you know, I had to go to Costco to buy the food, and why am I doing this? You know, but then when we got there and we had the morning, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I know why I've done this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk more about some of those transitions and the pivotal points of beauty industry. You mentioned that there have been a few, from different types of businesses to even transitioning the way that you run business. So would you mind just talking us through that?
Yeah, for sure. I guess in the early days, because right away we started with the events. I mean, we opened to be Beauty Industrie in April, and the first event was in August. So for people who know me, including yourself, Marnie, you will know that once I get an idea, I just need to make it happen. And that's not an ego thing. That's sometimes a perfectionist, just OCD, put all of your energy into it and everything else gets left behind things. So sometimes it's not the best way to operate, if I'm honest. But yeah, I guess from those events and then also having the podcast, people started to really listen to what I say, which is incredible. But then with that, people start to ask for a lot of advice. And obviously, having a therapist, manager, business owner, educator, and business development manager background, and being through the pathway and transition that so many people who were asking for this advice, I had been there and I had done those things that they were asking. I did start to kind of give them a lot of the answers, right? And so, in a sense, I got a little bit lost. And this is where the kind of pivoting point happened, because I started to create our online membership called Beauty Industry Pro back then. And originally, I had all of these, what I called experts in the program, to give me their content and to help out with, therapist relations and sales and marketing and da da da. But it was a little bit difficult to get them to create content for me when I was in Queensland, they were in Melbourne or Sydney or otherwise. And so I just thought, you know what, stuff it. I've probably got the answers. I've been there, I've done it before. I'll just create Beauty Industry Pro into just Tamara's program. And it wasn't until I had done 2 weeks straight in Melbourne. So this is about 14 days of 12-hour days, 6 a.m. breakfast, all the way through to, like, sometimes I was finishing at 1 a.m. having champagne with clients. And I got back and I was absolutely exhausted. And Nathan said to me, my husband now, he said, "Do you know you're a coach?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Yeah, you are. What have you been doing for the past 2 weeks in Melbourne?" And I said, "Oh, well, I've been traveling around. I was consulting with this brand. I was helping this beauty business owner. I went into this team and I did this and then I did this and blah, blah, blah." And we talked about the figures. And he was like, "Yeah, you're a coach." And I was like, "But I'm not." And so I guess in that moment, I was kind of like, "Oh my goodness, Tamara, you've told everyone you're not a coach, you're coming into the industry unbiased, da, da, da. And here you are with a bloody coaching program. Like, what are you doing?" And I got really lost. And even I think I was saying to you, Marnie, I was like, "Hang on, now I'm a coach. How did I get here?" And I just, the way that I got there, I know now upon reflection, is because I just wanted to give people answers really fast. And people don't move as fast as I do, and I'm too impatient. So I'm like, "That's it. I'm just going to do it for you." So that was a real pivoting point in the career and in the beauty industry timeline, because I was like, "Okay, take it back. What does beauty industry mean? What are the values? What do you want your life to look like? And what do you want this business to look like?" And none of that aligned with coaching. So I was like, "That's it. This has got to go." So last year in 2019, once we had rebranded, that's when I started thinking about what our new platform could look like. And I certainly knew that it wasn't just me and videos of me, that it was going back to what I wanted it to be at the very beginning. And that was to have everyone in one inclusive program. And that's when we came up with Beauty Academy. And I must give you all of the credit, because I was like, "How can I create this one word of what this platform is?" And you gave me that word. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Any kind of creativity when it comes to businesses and name calling, then I'm all up for it.
Friend and feature of the podcast, Karina Khan of Private Label Skincare is currently helping aspiring beauty entrepreneurs start their own professional, natural, and vegan skincare range for only $500. Yes, that's right. For this small investment, you'll get everything you need for your very own skincare brand to get off the ground with products that are ready to sell in just 2 weeks. Included in this incredible deal are 30 retail-sized products that have been formulated and tested by Karina, the founder and qualified cosmetic chemist behind Private Label Skincare, 2 online courses that have been written specifically to support skincare business owners, label templates and printing, a training manual, and free postage and handling within Australia. There's never been a better time to make use of your downtime, get creative, and start building the business and brand that you have always dreamed of. This offer will only run until Tuesday, 29th of April 2020, so if you're looking for an affordable, quick, and easy way to start your own skincare range, then you best not miss out. Visit www.privatelabelskincare.com.au for more information.
What a really interesting kind of journey you've been on as well. And in terms of how did you end up there? For some people, it's just about, continuing to say yes to opportunities, and then you find yourself somewhere. And for some people, they might have just continued on thinking, okay, well, I'm here now, it's working, I'm paying the bills, this looks good. But I just love that you had that reflective moment and you looked at your life and you thought, what do I want my life to look like? And what do I want this to look like in the future? And although it mustn't have been easy to make that decision to say, no, I'm not taking on any more clients and I'm not going to be doing this supposed coaching anymore, I think it's just really pays tribute to having really strong morals and having strong values like you speak about so much about Beaute Industrie.
Yeah, it was a really difficult decision to make, if I'm honest, because there is a lot of money to be made in coaching. There's a lot of money, and I completely understand. I see some coaches charge like upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 for a day, in coaching. I never ever charged that at all. I was always a really affordable price when I did coaching. But to be honest, it didn't help my soul. I was just going around saying the same thing over and over and over again. And, business owners weren't listening, or they'd heard it before. And I looked at other coaches, I looked at Bridget Benj, and I looked at Vanessa Main and Julie Piantidosi and Lisa and the Zing coaches. And I was like, they are the tits. Like, they are so good. Why am I trying to not even compete with them? That's not the right word. But I was just like, I don't want to be them. I don't want to do that, and I'm going to leave it up to the experts. And so when I did, take a back seat and take my program offline and started to look at Beaute Academy, I thought, okay, this is going to really hurt my wallet for a little bit. And I said to my husband, the money that we're coming in now is not going to be coming in. I'm going to funnel, a lot of that into building the program. But, it's worth it. It's worth it for not traveling around like a crazy woman. And it's worth it for not doing something that doesn't fulfill me.
Yeah, so such an important lesson to learn. So did you always know that you were going to be a business owner? I know that you worked for multiple companies across multiple states during your career, but was it something that you knew that you were always going to do from a young age? Perhaps not even knowing what the platform or the industry being, but just knowing that you were going to create a business and run a business?
Never. No, never, ever, ever. I just don't think owning a business was ever on my radar. I always just wanted to be a dancer. And so I just only had dance on the brain. I didn't even do business management or accounting or anything like that in year 11 and 12. That's how short-sighted I was. I just had no idea. I did like arts and photography and, PE and all of that kind of fun stuff. I just never thought I'd be a business owner, which is so strange now because, when I look back, all of the places I've been employed with, I'm always that annoying employee. And I always just ask why, if somebody says, oh, we've got to open a business here, or we've got to do this, or this is our marketing plan, not to be annoying, but I literally just want to know why we have to do something. And as we all know, those annoying people who ask why too much, they're generally the kind of entrepreneurial business owner personality because they want to do things themselves, and I never really took direction well. I take feedback well because I want to do things perfect, but I don't take direction or micromanagement, I should say, very well. But I guess it was only I went to Thailand. When was it? Maybe before, just after high school, actually. So I would have been, 19, 20. And I saw this skin center in Singapore, and it was kind of like an open plan space, and they had about 20 beds in there, and on each bed they had a little trolley, and it had all of the gadgets like the Maggie lamp and the steamer and the interferosis machine, and all of these different things. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is the coolest thing ever. And I took it back to Australia, and I was writing out all these plans and doing all this cool stuff, but I just didn't know how to get there. I've never really been a book smart kind of person. So I just went back into being a therapist, and then that's when I kind of learned about the metrics of running a business when I went into management.
Interesting. So, where do you draw your inspiration from, especially for the direction for beauty industry?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways that I draw inspiration, and I never really thought about how I find inspiration until I was asked last year for the Telstra Women in Business Awards, and they say, "Where do you get inspiration from?" Ask the same question, and I thought, I have no idea. I really don't. And then I kind of, it's interesting once someone asks you something, you realize what they're asking you. And for me, it's in like the smallest things, and it sounds so dorky, but I don't know why I find myself doing this. And it's going to sound even more dorkier now that I'm saying it out loud. But sometimes I watch ants, like literally ants in the garden,
Yeah.
because I always feed the magpies outside in my garden, and I'll throw chicken at the magpies. That might be cannibalism, actually. But I might throw something else at them now. But I throw chicken at the magpies and they eat it. And sometimes the pieces of chicken that the magpies don't eat, I see the ants pick it up. And so these ants can carry like 10,000 times their weight just to move this piece of chicken into the nest. And that really inspires me. But then I guess coming back to more of a reality subject, is that all of these little ants have this one little mission of getting these pieces of food back to the nest. And that's kind of like our community, really. It's like everybody just wants the same goal. Everybody wants positivity for the industry. Everybody wants to go to work and have fun. Everybody wants to be a better therapist, a better business owner, a better product house, a better education center. And every single time I hear from therapists or business owners or, brand reps or whatever, I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys are so cool. You guys are the little ants picking up the piece of chicken, like doing the work. And then I just get so much inspiration from that. It's just the smallest little bits and pieces that people go, hey, have you ever thought of this? Or what about this? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You want a live event? Let's do a live event. You want a workshop summit? Let's do a summit. Like, I always make sure that what they're asking of me, because I get asked a lot of stuff, I always make sure that what they're asking of me always aligns with the values, but they just bring me the inspiration, and I'm like, all right, let's do it.
I love that. And it even comes back to that first initial question of what are some of the misconceptions of business, just, coming back to not perhaps your idea always being what everyone else wants, but what a great kind of transition to then be able to just ask the community, because they are your audience, they're your consumers, they're your clients, and what better kind of a feedback loop to be able to ask them directly for the direction.
Oh, 100%. And I love that everyone in there, now we've got over 3,000 business owners in the Facebook community.
Wow.
But I love that they're so honest with me, and I'll say, what do you want to see from us? What are you sick of seeing from us? Who do you want me to talk to? Who do you not want me to talk to? What brands do you want me to work with? Like, what size do you want the gift bag? Do you want 5 gifts or do you want 15 gifts? Like, and they just like, yep, this, that, and they just guide the entire business. Somebody said last week, I said, I hope it's okay to say this on a live. And they commented and they said, you go for it. This is your Facebook group. And I said, no, this is your Facebook group as much as it's mine. Like, I hope that I can say this because I want you guys to tell me that I can. It's not the Tamara show by any means.
Mm. So I'm sure there's been more than three, but I'd love to hear three of your most favorite highlights thus far.
Yeah, there has been so many. And I guess when I was thinking of how to answer this question, um, there's been so many little things that have happened, like getting our very first podcast beauty partner sponsor, or getting a PR present in the mail from a beautiful brand, or, getting our very first iTunes review. There have been massive highlights along the way as well, but they kind of go towards the bigger highlights. I think for me, I interviewed last year a private one-on-one interview with Danae Montague King from DMK, and that was insane for me. It was such an incredible highlight. I mean, it was picturesque. We were sailing on a boat in the Sydney Harbour on Beauty Expo weekend, and it was all recorded, and it was just such a candid, lovely conversation. That was a massive, massive highlight for me, someone who I'd looked up to for years and years. Our podcast, which was really, really a huge highlight for me, reached top 5 podcasts in the whole of Australia for beauty industry. And we were sitting against names like Vogue and Marie Claire and Mamma Mia. And that, for me, when I woke up and saw that on an email, I was like, holy dooly. Because I mean, Mamma Mia and Vogue and, Marie Claire, like they're consumer beauty podcast. But we're going to the professional beauty industry. And I thought, yes, community is so exciting. And then I guess the biggest thing for me, which always reinstills my why and always pushes me to do better and be better and do more, is just basically after every single event. I don't think I'll ever get tired of just that feeling. I don't know. You said it yourself, Marnie, after your event as well. And it just gives you like the warm fuzzies. If you're feeling empty and your cup's empty, you come to an event and you're like, okay, I get it. These are my people. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because sometimes, I'm sitting in my spare bedroom in my house and I'm just chatting on a podcast, or I'm just doing work through emails all day and I kind of don't connect a lot. But when we have our events, I'm like, yes, it's such a highlight for me.
Congratulations, firstly, just on everything that you've achieved, and 3 huge highlights. I also really like that you mentioned the little things. And I've come to this belief that we should be celebrating even the small things, because if we can't celebrate the small things, then it's not as easy to celebrate the big things and really congratulate ourselves and look back on all the achievements. Because when you are a business owner and when you are trying to create something, you're constantly thinking of the next thing and the next thing and the next big project, and ticking all those things off your huge to-do list. So yeah, congratulations on everything that you've achieved thus far, and also just looking at those little things and also being excited about those as well. I love the Friday night congratulate and celebrate that happens in the Beaute Industry Facebook group. And this is, I guess, another highlight that it is about recognizing all the ups and downs and celebrating them for what they are, because sometimes they might be negative, but we can see them as a lesson. And then when something is really exciting, it's so important to be able to share that with those that you love, but also the community that you've built as well.
Yeah, you're so 100% right. And you know what? More times it's the little things than it's the big things, Like I, might wake up to a Facebook message, or somebody's commented on our Instagram or sent me a private DM, and I always screenshot them. And this might sound a little bit conceited, but I put the little favorite love heart in my iPhone on it. And then if I'm having a bad day, or if I'm just absolutely exhausted, and I've got a flight to catch back home, and I think, why am I doing this? I should be with my husband, or, whatever that looks like. I just go through all of those favorited screenshot messages of people saying, like, I'm going to stay in my business, or I was going to leave the industry and now I've listened to your podcast with whoever, and, I'm going to stay. And I'm like, yes, this is the best. And it's those little highlights that keep you going. Like, yes, the good stuff is huge and they're milestones, but it's kind of like the little stuff is the most important.
I love that idea. Marie Folio does something similar, and saves messages and testimonials and things. And I think if those listeners that don't already have that, take a note out of Tamara's book, take a note out of Marie's book, because in those times when you are feeling a little bit down, it is so nice to look back and look at all the other people around you that are cheering you on and giving you a pat on the back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in regards to decisions, you have mentioned that you are always asking the community, but are your decisions really intuitive, or do you really analyze them first before progressing?
Yeah, I guess I used to be very reactive, and when making a decision, I would be pressured by a brand or pressured by the community to do something or make something or say something, and I used to think I'd have to do it right then and there and say yes or no right then and there, and I guess that was a really reactive decision. And I have made some bad decisions because of that reaction. As I said, that coaching program was absolutely ridiculous. And that was just a reactive decision because somebody said, can you coach me? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's just do it. But in 2020, my word for the year, instead of having a big New Year's resolution to lose 5 kilos or something stupid like that, which I know I'm going to not do on day 5. I just wanted to have a word of the year. And so this year, my word was considered. And so that means for me, when I make decisions, I try and sit in them, and I sit in them for at least 24 hours. And then I think, how is this going to benefit the community? How is it going to benefit the business? What is that going to look like? Time, energy, money, passion wise. And then I make the decision based from that. So I guess the bulk of it is definitely careful analysis, I guess you could say. But too, sometimes I will just wake up and I'll be like, you need to go live today, Tamara. And I think, why are you telling me I need to go live? It's kind of like that devil and angel on my shoulder, except I'm a Gemini, so it's like my own head on each side. And I'm like, okay, why do I need to go live? Or why do I need to create this meme? Or why do I need to write this quote today and put it on our social media? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm just going to go ahead and trust my intuition, and I'm just going to create it anyway. And then when I do, it's like so many people will message me going, oh my goodness, I needed that live, or that quote has just come up in the perfect time of my life, or little bits and pieces like that. And I love that as well. So I guess probably 80% would be very considered decisions, and then a good 20 still drives a business based on intuition.
Yes, and your stance on brand alignment is quite different to other people and different to other businesses out there in the beauty industry. Why have you chosen not to partner with just one brand? I know this is a question that has come up for you before.
Yeah, always, always. I think what coaches and industry people used to do was come into the industry and align with a brand. So if you had ABC coaching and there was XYZ product brand, the ABC coach would be like, hey, XYZ product brand, I'm going to align with you. I'll help all of your stockists make more money, make more revenue, sell more product. And in turn, you're going to promote me as the coach or mentor or inspirational, whatever. And I kind of thought coming into this, I wasn't allowed to partner with any other brands because I was working with a brand at the time. So that kind of drove it. But then when I stopped working for that product brand, I was like, I don't want to work with just one brand. And professionally and personally, I don't think that just one brand can solve all of the world's skincare problems. I really, really don't. And when I look in my own cupboard, there's like 50 different brands in there, you know, in my beauty cupboard in my bathroom. And that's what consumers are doing. That's what therapists are doing. That's what I'm seeing now business owners doing. You know, I spoke with someone last week, they've got 13 brands in their salon. So how can I, as somebody who represents the industry, come out and partner or just suggest one or two brands? So for me, I look at a brand and I say, well, does it give you a result? And the result can be either results driven, like literally changing the cells, or, you know, changing fluid or whatever that looks like, inflammation, or does it give a result of relaxation? And if the clients love it and it works, it's not got any, you know, completely bad ingredients, if it's professional, and if it's stocked by the professional beauty industry, then sure. Now, this isn't my personal, you know, take on brands. There are some brands out there in our industry who I go, how the heck are they a professional brand? Like, look at the colors, look at the fragrances, look at all the different metrics. You know, that's Tamara's stance on it. But for Beaute Industrie, somebody who's representing an entire beauty industry, it's not my thought process behind it. And I guess that's how I come into the industry, making sure that I'm not aligning with any one brand. I'm here to support all. And in fact, across the beauty industry weekend last year, where the expo was, I went to a DMK awards night. I went to a Derm Visuals awards night. I was on an Ali Lucas presentation as well. And I got a little bit of feedback from people saying, how have you gone to all of these different brands? Like, don't you find that to be a bit hypocritical? And I said, absolutely not at all. I'm just an unbiased, brand neutral person in the industry who's here to support everybody. And it's not, you know, I don't want to go to just one award and just support them. I want to be seen at most of them so that everybody knows that the entire beauty industry is supporting them at this one time. So it has been a bit controversial. Not everyone has understood it. Not everyone's going to understand it. And I completely, you know, I get it. But yeah, it's just kind of what I think the beauty industry needs at the moment.
What a fantastic answer. And the explanation that you gave at the beginning, where someone will align with one brand, I guess that's what you could call a strategic partnership in a sense, because you're getting clients and they're giving you clients. But in the same sentence, what you're doing with Beaute Industrie is a strategic type partnership, because you're not polarizing and just choosing one brand or one modality. It's like, this is the professional beauty industry and this is everything that it represents. So it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So who inspires you in business?
Yeah, I guess and this is another reason too why I created the podcast and Beauty Academy as well, because other than, and I said this on Bridget's podcast episode, other than Bridget Benj, for me as a therapist growing up, I didn't really have anyone who I wanted to aspire to. You know, there was no best therapist in the world, or, you know, we didn't have Instagram when I was a therapist, you know, and gosh, I'm sounding old now, aren't I? But there wasn't people out there who were doing lives and who had podcasts and things like that. So for me, I just kind of looked outside the industry and I was like, oh well, I might as well look to the closest thing, you know. And for me, that was Kate Morris of Adore Beauty. She started in 1999. This is her 20th year in business. She started with a fax and, you know, got told, I think it was 4 or 7 times by Estee Lauder, no, 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 until she got the yes, and they came, you know, bashing her door down. And then when I created Beaute Industrie, I was looking for people, again, you know, there had been no community in the beauty industry. There had been no community that I had ever been a part of. So I kind of looked towards Emma Isaacs of Business Chicks, and I was like, right, well, she has 35,000, you know, just times 10 of mine in her community. How did she get that? How does she do that? How does she support them and motivate them and keep those numbers up? And what does she do with her events, you know? So I want our industry to now know that there are super inspirational people. You know, you can listen to a podcast now, you can watch a live, you can look on social media, and they will inspire you. But for me, it's kind of like those original pioneers, especially women pioneers, in the beauty industry, and now for me personally in the community kind of arena as well.
Yeah, two amazing, amazing women in their own right. So, Tamara, tell us more about Beauty Academy. Why is it the biggest development for the professional beauty industry?
Yeah, I hope it is the biggest development. My coach will be listening to this going, Tamara, don't say hope, say it will be, you know, because you always want to kind of challenge yourself, and what you put out there really does come back tenfold. But when I was thinking of Beauty Academy last year, I was like, that's it. It's not Tamara's coaching course anymore. It's about the professional beauty industry. And I sat back and I thought, if I'm a professional beauty business owner, if I'm a manager, who do I want to hear from? And it was the coaches, it's the educators. And I thought, what do I want to learn? And it's all of the little things, you know. How do I create a really great website that is functional, that clients want to click on? How can I be seen? What kind of content do I have to create on my social media accounts? What is content? You know, how do I come up on the first page of Google? How do I set targets for my clients? How do I write a therapist contract? You know, like all of this small stuff that I've thought, how do I, how can I, how should I in my kind of careers? Um, I just want to give people the answers. So, you know, I'm always one to say, I don't know all of the answers. I will never fake it if I do. I'd rather say, look, I don't know. I'm going to give you somebody who's an expert. And so yeah, kind of just, again, was a crazy person. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is what's happening. And so I just reached out to industry educators and leaders and experts like yourself, Marnie, and just everybody in the network who I had. And I said, hey, I'm going to create this thing. And it's just going to be hundreds of videos on how to, tutorials, lessons, everything you can think of. I want to hear from the brands. I want to hear from the support. I want to just put it in a platform that's super, super affordable and accessible for the industry. And something I'd been hearing a lot of at the time were people complaining about their coaches being really, really expensive or not being able to get out of the program because they were locked into some kind of wild contract. And I was actually just looking at subscription programs. And then I was kind of like, rightio, we have, you know, over 100 different videos in there. People can just log in, log out when they feel like it. If they're having a shitty month and they can't, you know, afford to put food on their plate, they have the control of unsubscribing from that month and then logging back in when they can. You know, you don't have to send an email that you feel embarrassed by saying, hi, Tamara, can you please cancel my subscription this month? You know, none of that. Just you go in, you do it yourself, and you have the full control. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I had a beta group, so a test group, and there were people in there. And everyone kept on saying to me, Tamara, this is like Netflix. This is like Netflix. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, no contracts, log in, log out. I can watch videos from any device, da, da, da. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And I kind of thought Netflix was pretty groundbreaking for the world, really. So I hope that this is a groundbreaking platform for our industry.
Amazing, Tamara. And just you talking about it, I could hear that it lights you up. So it's so nice to hear how much Beaute Academy is exciting you as well, as it is many others in the industry. Why do you continue to do what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I ask myself this often when I, you know, have a cold sore because I'm so stressed, or when I've only eaten a packet of 2-minute noodles for the day because I've just been on calls in and out. I'm like, why are you doing this, Tamara? Why are you doing this to yourself? I guess, you know, for me, it's the change in the industry that I've seen. Like, people are talking to each other, and I'll always get sent, screenshots of messages that have been going back and forward between two business owners who are like just cheering people on, and they're so excited for each other. Or they'll send me a photo of themselves with their brand manager, and they're like, we just had this amazing conversation about beauty industry and da da da. That for me, I'm just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And a lot of people have asked me along the way, like, what's your agenda? And a lot of people sit back and they watch and they wait and they want to find out what my evil plot behind all of this is. And I'm like, honestly, I'm that black and white. If I had an evil plot, I would tell you about it before you even asked me. But yeah, I don't know. It does. I'm obsessed with this. My husband will tell you that I'm obsessed with this more than my cat, which is something that's almost impossible. But I just love it. I love helping the industry. I just love that I've got my own platform. I love that I've created a business of my own. I love that the beauty industry helps me do this. I love that I've created a role for myself. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough, that if you're a therapist right now, you can literally create whatever role you want. So I love the flexibility of all of that, I guess, without sounding like a dick.
No, you don't at all. That's fantastic. So what's next for Beaute Industrie?
Yeah. Look, everybody says they want to go global, and that for me, that's a real thing that can be tangible, which I never really believed. In the beginning, I just thought we're a community for Australia's industry. Until we got the call from someone in Phuket saying, hey, do you want to come and do this speaking gig? And then I got another one from South Africa, and I was like, oh my goodness, this can be bigger than Australia. And it wasn't really that they wanted to hear from me. They wanted to hear about beauty industry. And I was like, this is so cool. So for me this year, we're in a bit of a pause moment at the moment. But it is about going global. We can get people into Beaute Academy from anywhere in the world, which would just be absolutely incredible if we could have Australia connected to the likes of the UK and the US, who are super progressive in their tech department and ingredients and legislation departments as well. And I just think it would be the coolest. So that for us is now what I have on my vision board is to be the world's largest online community for the professional beauty industry.
What a fantastic goal. Well, Tamara, I have absolutely enjoyed listening to your journey and your story with Beaute Industrie. Again, congratulations on everything that you've achieved.
Thank you. 100 episodes. Woo!
Woo! Well done. To 100 more.
That's exactly right. Thanks so much, Marnie.
My pleasure. What a fantastic episode, and a huge congratulations to Tamara and the Beaute Industrie. But a big thank you goes out to the community. Without your support along the way, there would be no Beaute Industrie here today. Make sure that you screenshot yourself listening to this episode and tag Beaute Industrie and at Tamara Reid.